Okay, we're gonna get started here. Can you guys hear me? Welcome, Miranda, Amanda, and Drew. Can you guys hear me? Type in the chat area. Good, awesome. We got started a little later here. I was having some issues kind of getting into my, getting into Zoom to launch. I had to do some restarts, so I apologize for the late start. And I also want to say sorry for last week. I actually was diagnosed with strep throat, and that's no fun. But I'm actually doing a lot better. So I was kind of battling that, and I had to post a pre-recorded session for week 1. Unfortunately, because of that, my throat was so swollen that I actually had a steroid shot in my arm because I couldn't breathe barely. That was the first time that's ever happened. But now I'm good and I can talk. I couldn't do a 2-hour lecture, let alone a 1-minute lecture. So I appreciate you guys being patient with me, and hopefully that lecture recording was sufficient enough for you guys to go forward. And it seemed like a lot of you guys did pretty well with your week 1 projects, so that's a good thing. Yeah, my name is April Biss. I know I didn't quite get to do a live introduction of myself, but if you listen to the first recording, I did. You could just call me April. That's fine. And hopefully a lot of you guys are figuring out the Packback. That is a new implemented discussion forum. I know a lot of you guys are getting frustrated with it. And it's not in every class as of yet, but it is in this one. And it's just a different way to go about the discussions. You guys are asked to talk about, actually bring up a question in relation to what we're talking about in each week's discussion. So, if you're still having issues trying to get into Packback, let me know. I had kind of a crazy weekend. I was actually out of town this weekend, so if I didn't get back to you, I usually am really good at getting back to you guys as soon as possible, but this weekend has been like the craziest weekend because I was out of town for a short bit there. So if you did send me an email about that, I'll try to get the contact information for you to get some help with it, because I cannot do anything on my end in regards to trying to help you figure it out. Yeah, there you go. You have 2 kids, so it's crazy for you too. Yeah, see, I'm on the same side. I go through the same things that you guys go through too. It's just life. So that's why I'm kind of, if you attempted to do the Packback and maybe didn't do it quite, maybe it was kind of like, you didn't quite know how to do it. I kind of gave you some more points the past week because it's just been crazy. It's just been like trying to get you guys in there. Some of you guys were having a lot of problems. And then also when I started the class, they set up the expiration date. The expiration date wasn't correct, whoever set it up. So when you guys started your class, it was almost as if the class was already over, and that's why it was giving you the expiration error, which we kind of figured that out with the representative at Packback. But now that should be fixed, and hopefully a lot of you guys, if not all of you guys, should be able to get on there and post it to the discussions. But and I'm going to go through my emails again. Like I said, it's been a crazy weekend, so I will get back to you if you did email me as soon as possible. And if you're still having issues, please let me know. Oh, you're expecting a baby. Congratulations. So your third one is coming. When's your date? Is it soon or? Okay, so that's coming up. It'll be, as soon as Christmas hits, right after that, it'll be super fast. Well, congrats. It's exciting. Get a little winter baby. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and she keeps me busy pretty much. Just 1, so I couldn't even imagine having 3. Oh, cute. Congrats. Are all of the other 2 boys too? Okay. 1 girl, 2 boys. Very cool. And Amanda, I have a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old. Yeah, that will keep you busy for sure. Yep, we actually went away for we went to an indoor water park over the weekend, so that's why we were out of town, and I went with 3 kids, so it was kind of crazy, but we had fun. It was fun. I don't get much vacation time, so that was kind of a nice getaway. But yeah, I kind of get backlogged with emails sometimes, especially when I don't have Wi-Fi. Yeah. All right. So very cool. You know, just life happens, kids, everything else going on. It gets crazy. I understand. All right. So just a few things for the agenda today for the lecture week 2. Just some announcements. We're going to talk about psychology of color. And of course, the CRAP design principles. We're always kind of hammering that into your minds because that is the basis. That's the foundation of what we do as designers. We have, I think a lot of people think that because we're designers, we don't have roles. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we break those rules for reasons, hopefully, that are appropriate. But we do have rules. We have rules that we have to go by. If time, we're going to talk about some color review. We'll see if we get to it. We have a lot of demonstration examples. I need to get started, so I won't probably have time for the color review, but if we do, we'll talk about that. All right, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, all of your assignments for this week are due by Saturday before midnight, and that's Mountain Time, so make sure you're getting that in. If you're having any issues, let me know as soon as possible so that I can be flexible to work with you guys. I really want all of you guys to do really well in this class. That's why I'm here. I'm here to make you guys hopefully inspire and guide you guys through this course successfully, so you're learning and coming out with some strong projects. Week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. You guys should know that by now, just because we have to have grades in by a certain time. And don't forget, your original discussion post is due by Wednesday. That's before midnight Mountain Time. And then also your 2 responses to student discussions are due by Saturday before midnight. So make sure it's the same rules that apply to Packback. You're just posting in a different way. Also, late discussion posts will not be accepted past the Saturday deadline for the week. If you posted this week 1 past Wednesday deadline, I didn't mark you off for that. I didn't give you guys points off for that because I know a lot of you guys were having issues getting in there, and a lot of it was because they pretty much did the expiration date wrong. So I don't want to hold that up against you guys. All right, so our lectures are Monday right now from 12:30 to 2:30. That's Mountain Time. If you're Eastern Time like me, it starts at 2:30. And then our multi-session, which are not mandatory, it's just for you guys if you need extra help. I will be logged in tomorrow really early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Mountain Time. If you're Eastern Time, it's 8 to 10. So I will be kind of logged in for those 2 hours. If you want to come in and have me look at any of your work or have any questions, that's a good time to come in. I'll just be sitting there kind of reviewing stuff, getting some grading done, if not, but I will be in there. And then, if you need extra help, I've had students say, I need extra help, and I can't do that for you guys for some reason. You guys go to the Student Success Center. They have tutoring available. There's also a learning coach assigned to this class. And actually, I will be posting her ad today for her contact information and her schedule. All right. Before I get started here, did anybody have any questions from week 1? Yeah, they are definitely. Student Success Center is a great help for a lot of you guys. I notice a lot of you guys are utilizing that, which is great. Week 1, any questions in week 1 since we just completed week 1, which is crazy. It goes so fast. Everybody, I'll take that as a no. All right, so let's go forward. Let's talk about the psychology of color, of logo color. I thought this was kind of interesting. According to research compiled by web design and marketing company WebPageFX, people make a subconscious judgment about a product in less than 90 seconds of viewing, and a majority of these people base that assessment on color alone. In fact, almost 85% of consumers cite color as a primary reason why they buy a particular product, and 80% of people believe color increases brand recognition. So color is a huge persuasive design element that you can definitely use in a meaningful way if it's appropriate to the product, to the brand, whatever you're kind of trying to sell or persuade. And it's just, it's one of those things where you don't have to, it's not a verbal thing, it's more of a visual thing. So, we have to understand why we use certain colors, the meanings behind them so that we're using them effectively, because, color alone is huge. Just a little overview here of some of the primary colors and what red and blue and yellow represent, kind of the personality and the emotions, the politics, marketing, and other health-related stuff has to do with this color, so that you kind of understand a little bit. And I know a lot of you guys had color theory too before this, so this is kind of like a refresher. Evoke strong emotions. So think about red. How, if you're doing a brand that you really want to evoke strong emotions, maybe it's for a cause that you're trying to raise awareness about. That's maybe a color that you might want to look into. It encourages appetite. Miranda, you said the color wheel was hard for me being colorblind. Oh, that would be, yeah, if you're colorblind, you might have some issues with the color wheel. Although there are, definite like solid color codes that you can put in there. I think I sent that to you to plug in, so you're not kind of guessing visually. Encourages appetite. If you're, think about McDonald's, Burger King, all those fast food restaurants. There's other restaurants too, Red Lobster definitely utilizes red within their brand to encourage appetite. Increases passion and intensity. Red roses symbolize love. So all those types of emotions, the personality of that red color, really have to think about what that, you wouldn't want to use red for something like a day spa that, you're going to be wanting them to be relaxed, because red is a very, very harsh, bold color. So, there's reasons why you would use it and, steer clear of it in certain ways too. Politics worldwide represents socialist parties or communists, and USA used for Republicans. So color is even used in politics. In marketing, it increases heart rate, used by restaurants to stimulate appetite, creates urgency, often seen in clearance items, used for impulsive shoppers. If you ever walk into a store and you see those like red ticketed items, your eye goes straight there, right? And your heart rate increases. You're ready to buy that stuff that you don't really need, but you want. So yeah, red is definitely good for that. If you're into more of the health and the holistic part of color theory, chakras are the 7 nervous systems in your body. And the root chakra is the base chakra, and it's shown on the right there. And it's located at the base of the spine. It's really related to survival, safety, and physical self. So even color is represented in more of a holistic way, when you're talking about some health-related items. Here's some red logos, just to kind of talking about red and the brands. Let's take a look at some of these. A lot of them are food-related, maybe food, drink. So it's kind of interesting to see all of the different brands here. Then yellow, we're talking about primary. So this is the next one is yellow. Increases cheerfulness and warmth, causes fatigue and strain on eyes, makes babies cry. So, Miranda, you don't want to, paint your baby room yellow, all yellow at least. Stimulates mental processes, nervous system, encourages communication. Kind of another interesting thing. Do you ever see those yellow tablets? They're like yellow paper and has blue lines on them. Those yellow tablets. They actually were made yellow for a reason. The color is supposed to spark your creativeness and stimulates the mental processes. So that was kind of the thought behind making the tablets yellow. I had no idea about that until I went through color theory as a student too. So it was kind of interesting to see to see that. I just thought that's just the color that they picked. But yeah, so politics represents liberalism, excuse me. Yeah, it is pretty interesting, isn't it? So when you see those yellow pads, you kind of can say, hey, I know why they made that yellow. Marketing represents optimism and youthfulness. It used to grab attention of window shoppers and shows clarity. So if you're wanting to show, say if you're working on a brand that's more youthful and or representing more of a youthful audience, you might want to plug in some of the yellow. I mean, think about all the kids stuff out there that are, typically they use a lot of the primary colors, the red, yellow, and blue, in the more, young, youthful type of marketing approaches, because they're more of a basic color and they all have their own reasons to represent, youthfulness, and yellow is definitely one of them. Chakras, solar plexus chakra is yellow. It's located in the upper abdomen between the navel and sternum. And it's related to personal power, will, and self-esteem. There is ways that you can balance your chakras, and you could take a stone that's kind of matching that color and place it on those chakras. I know I've done that in the past. Some of you might think, oh, that's really weird. But if you're into that stuff, it's kind of interesting for sure. All right, here's the yellow logos. There's IKEA, blue and yellow, using those complementary colors. But yeah, here's some examples of some yellow, primarily yellow logo brands. All right, and the last one is blue, associated with water and peace, most preferred by men, represents calmness, serenity, curbs appetite. So, if you're a restaurant, you might want to steer clear of the blue. Known as a cold color, increases productivity, used in office settings. Politics worldwide represents conservative parties, and then the United States used for Democrats. And then in marketing, often used in corporate business because it is productive and non-invasive, creates a sense of security and trust in a brand. And then chakra is this blue represents the throat chakra, base of the throat, relates to communication, truth, and self-expression. So in marketing, it creates a sense of security and trust in a brand. If you were, say, like a bank institution that wants to convey that security and trust, a lot of banks use the blue color because of that. So think about different brands that really want to convey security and trust. Here are some examples of blue logos. Everybody wants you to trust their brand, but some of them more than others. There's JP Morgan is a good example of that. So just kind of be aware of certain colors that are, around you and how they make you feel. I know taking some of these classes makes you more aware of things going on around you. So really kind of think about that when you walk into a restaurant. What is the overall color theme? And how is this making me feel? Maybe you walked into a restaurant that was all yellow and they didn't truly understand what colors that were appropriate for it. And the yellow didn't quite match what the brand was all about. It drove you crazy and it made you feel weird. You didn't want to stay there long enough, to even, kind of made you feel uncomfortable. So those types of experiences can happen too, where it's kind of a little off. But typically a more effective and meaningful and recognizable logo in a brand will effectively utilize the color that's appropriate for their brand. All right, so let's talk about, we just talked about color, just the three basic colors, red, blue, yellow, what they meant, and kind of talked about the personalities. Let's take a look at the CRAP principles of graphic design. You guys should be aware of all of this anyway, but this is kind of a little review. We're going to talk about contrast, and this is big because I've seen a lot of students not use enough contrast, especially with body copy, over top of, say, an image or maybe a block of color that is really hard to read. So you want to make sure that you have enough contrast so that it is readable, and it's also bringing that attention to the viewer and really having them, make them want to read what's on there. And contrast is one of the principles of graphic design. If two elements are different, make those differences striking. And that could be color, That could be typography related. You can have a contrast, say a thin type versus a thick type. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with color, but the boldness in regards to the typography is related to contrast. So you can tell, a big difference between the two. All right, so just keep that in mind. Repetition is another principle of graphic design you guys should be aware of going forward in your projects. So use repeated elements to direct, organize, and structure. There's patterns on these business cards here that are kind of pulling through. And it's a little hard to see how this works on this example, but repetition can really help you unify a piece as well. So if you have a couple pages within, say, a menu, that pattern, that repetition of whatever you're using will help unify and make your piece look more cohesive. Alignment, I cannot say this enough. This is one of the big principles that students have struggle a little bit with more so. So line up elements to create visual structure. You don't always necessarily have to go with a grid, but you should have a reason why you're placing type where you are, how your proximity with the type in your image is, and you should be aligning it in some sort of way so that it all looks visually appealing and is easy to read. So alignment is big, and that's not just your type, that's also with any elements that you have. You can align your pictures, shapes, and type as well. Proximity, this is a tricky one. I think this is one that you guys will learn as you go forward a little bit more as you kind of gain more experience with designing, especially in the programs that you're working with. But basically, proximity is when you clump together related elements so that their spatial relationships organize and emphasize. So you can see here the poster, they're clumping together the section on the top, which is the name of the brand, and then the visual, which is below, which is the focal point, is there's a space in between there. And this is a very simple example, but you get the fact that there's two sections here, and it's being read separately. So there's a visual pause in between the type on the top and the image on the bottom. That visual pause, that space, that negative space in between there is really what helps a viewer view something very easily, and they can have their eye directed in one place and then travel around easily around the layout. So if you have a focal point and then, to pull you in, and then obviously a hierarchy of your elements kind of clumped together, it's easier for the eye to travel around and know where to look first, second, third. So proximity is important. You don't want everything to run together. You need that visual pause in between certain elements, especially if you have a lot of information, in your layout, say if it's a menu or something like that. All right, any questions about what we kind of went over here, the principles? You guys pretty much should know all of these, just need to keep practicing each one, especially in this project coming up here. You're good? All right. Just a couple of tricks and tips, just some to think about when you're designing for this class and future projects. You want to limit the number of fonts on your page. Do you guys know why that is? Why do you not want to use more than, say, 2 fonts for a page? Anybody know? Because the design will look busy and not draw attention to places it needs to be. Perfect, Amanda. Yep. So it will be too disconnected. It won't be cohesive. It will be kind of like confusing. Why is there so many different fonts here? Yep, exactly. Good. So text, also text on top of a high contrast background is difficult to read. Remember that. They're talking about, like, if it's, say, like a photograph and it's really high contrast, and say there's a lot of, like, a busy street and it's all very contrasted. If you put type over that, it's going to be really hard to read. So you need to kind of figure out a way to make that work. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that you guys can figure that out. One of the things I've always worked on in my past that are a little more challenging are magazine covers. I've worked for numerous publication companies and publications within Ohio and Florida. And one of the biggest challenges is how do you choose a big image on the cover images and have the type kind of be readable, because, you know, it can be kind of tricky. But there are ways around that. So I'm going to show you something when we're starting the demo here. KISS, keep it simple, stupid, you know, just kind of the rule here. It's one of the things that sometimes you won't realize until you graduate, and then you're out there working for a little bit, and then you look back at your school projects, and then you're like, yeah, that's what I was doing wrong. So sometimes it's a learning process. You have to keep editing your stuff down, because you don't, sometimes students, and I know I've been there before, have a tendency to over-design, overdo it, because they feel like they just need one more element in there, you know, one more thing in there, and then it kind of falls apart. So keep it simple. Simple can be beautiful. You don't want it to be boring, but you want it to be beautiful. You want it to be effective. Colors, limit your colors, you know, keep it down to a few colors so that it's not just like typography. If you have too many typefaces, it gets disconnected and kind of confusing, just like with colors. So pick a color scheme that you think works best for a brand or whatever project that you're working on, say an advertisement. High value colors are high contrast, but also easy to class. So high value colors are high contrast, and you just want to make sure that you're not making it too hard to read in the high contrast colors, because you want contrast, but you want to make sure you're putting the right combinations together if you're doing type over a certain color. Make your design stand out, so unique, distinct, and easily recognizable. So when you think about that, think about all the very recognizable brands that are out there, like Nike and Apple, Volkswagen, simple and recognizable. They only use one, either abbreviation or an icon to represent who they are. And they're able to get there. They didn't start out that way, but they were able to get to that point because they evolved their logo throughout the many, many years that they have been, you know, recognized. And people just eventually will, you know, they just become so recognizable that people just see it as, you know, that you can drop the name off of the brand and just have the icon that's always been with it. And that's exactly where all the brands pretty much want to be at, you know, so recognizable that they don't even have to have their name on it. But think about your designs in that way. You wouldn't start out, you know, a new logo with just an icon, because nobody would know what it was. But think about how you can keep your designs unique, distinct, and easily recognizable. How can you make it stand out, but keep it simple and effective? All right. Now we're going to go into spot versus process color. Do you guys know the differences between spot and process? If somebody said to you, I need a process, I need a project, I need a poster, and I want to do it in all process colors. Do you guys know what that means? They'll say process or for color. Give you that hint there. It's basically the same thing. Process and for color mean the same thing. So if you hear those two terms, and if you don't know, that's okay. That's why you're here. This can get kind of confusing unless you're into it and learning about it. So process color, which is also known as for color, the number 4, is utilizing 4 of the inks on a printing plate. So it's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, CMYK. So those are pretty much, yeah. And then that's process color, and then spot color. Do you know give me an example of what a spot color would be, or what a system using spot color would be? Do you ever hear of Pantone, PMS, Pantone matching system? Probably heard of PMS before. That's what spot colors are. Pantone matching system is the system that we typically use as designers for spot color. So process color is CMYK, 4-color, uses 4 colors. Yeah, and Pantone is a pre-mixed ink that is a specific color that's in the Pantone matching system. And we'll talk about this a little bit in detail here. Good. So colors created without screens or dots are spot colors. We were just talking about that. And those can be found in the Pantone matching system. You see that little booklet up there on the upper right-hand corner? That's a Pantone matching system book. And they're referred to in the industry as spot or solid colors. So from a palette of about 18 basic colors, each of the spot colors in the Pantone matching system is mixed according to its own unique ink mixing formula developed by Pantone. You probably mixed yellow and blue paint to get green in your youth when you were younger, creating a Pantone spot color similar in concept but with the added need for precision. So each color in the system has a unique name or a number followed by either a C or a U. The letter suffix refers to the paper stock on which it was printed. So C represents coated paper and U is for uncoated. Also created without screens, Pantone metallic and pastel colors are considered part of the Pantone matching system. Due to the gamut of the 18 basic colors, some spot colors will be cleaner and brighter than if they were created in the 4-color process described in the next slide. Spot colors are commonly used in corporate logos and identity programs and in 1, 2, or 3-color jobs. So spot colors are great for logos because you know you're never ever going to see that logo being printed in a different color. It's not going to shift on the printer. You know, when it prints, it's not going to shift in color. It won't get darker. It won't get lighter. It's going to stay the exact same color because it's a pre-mixed ink. If you did a process color on that logo, say you didn't do the spot color, you went to process, so it's CMYK, you could have multiple prints coming out, say on an advertisement, and if the printer shifts in any way, goes darker or lighter, heavier or lighter on the ink, you could have a different color change within that logo. I mean, it could be slight, but that's a good thing about spot colors is you're going to get that color the same all the time. So in logos, it's really important, especially when you're working with a bigger brand. If they want their logo to look the same on every piece, same color, that's the way to go. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have just a spot color all for your whole entire project. You can have a logo in a spot color, a specified spot color on your, say, an advertisement, and then everything else be CMYK, process color. So you can have both, but there are reasons why you would use both. It's a little pricier for spot colors, so you will pay a little bit more for spot colors depending on how many you have, rather than a CMYK process color. So sometimes it's based on the budget too. So we just talked about spot color. Let's talk about process color. The most common method of achieving color in printing is referred to as CMYK. The 4-color process, that's another term for it, 4-C process, or even just process is some of the terminology based on that. To reproduce a color image, a file is separated into 4 different colors. So you have cyan for C, magenta for M, yellow for Y, and K for black. So during separation, screen tints comprised of small dots are applied at different angles to each of the 4 colors. The screen separations are then transferred to 4 different printing plates, 1 for each color, and run on a printing press with 1 color overprinting the next. The composite image fools the naked eye with the illusion of continuous tone. Process colors are represented as percentages of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Varying the percentages offers thousands of color possibilities. When 4-color process printing is used to reproduce photographs, decorative elements such as borders and graphics can be created out of the process colors. This helps to avoid the added expense of an extra plate needed to print each spot color. So process colors are good for, they're not as expensive printing wise. And if you ever want to, you might not even realize it's this process color. It might look really good, sharp. The image in the say a magazine looks really great, really sharp. How you would tell it's a process or process color is if you had like a little loop. I don't know if you guys know what a loop is. It's like a magnifying glass for your eye, and you can kind of look at something really up close. I usually, when I teach color theory on ground, I have a little loop that I pass around, and I have them look at a process colored example and a spot colored example. And when they use that loop, they look in, they can't tell from, just looking at the two examples, from far away. But when you use that loop, you can tell which one's the process because it has those little dots, those dots per inch. You can see that in there comprises the image. The other spot example, you can't see those dots. It's just solid. Sometimes, you will be converting spot to process, and you're going to be doing that in this class for one of your projects. This is why it's important to understand this. And it's also something that you do professionally when you're out there. So oftentimes a spot Pantone matching system color is requested when creating a process printed piece. To save money, the spot color should be evaluated to see how it will look if printed in CMYK. Well, some colors can be simulated well. There are many that are outside the possible color gamut for that process and will look quite different. As the quality of the resulting colors conversion is very subjective, the designer can make decisions using the Pantone Color Bridge Guide as well as the Pantone Extended Gamut Coded Guide. So most Adobe programs can convert spot to process right within the program. So basically what they're saying is if you're going, say you have a piece that has a spot color in it and you want to convert it to CMYK, the 4-color, you want to make sure, if it's a logo especially, you want to make sure that those colors convert and they look exactly the same, as close as you can get them. Sometimes, especially the blue colors, will shift greatly, so it'll look maybe more dull when it goes to CMYK. Maybe it looks more of a gray blue than an electric type of a blue color. But what's nice about that is, you have those Pantone guides, and some of them have a conversion, so you can see what it looks like as a Pantone color, and then right next to it is a CMYK conversion of that same color. So typically when I am faced with that, I'll take that book out that I have and say, okay, this Pantone color blue, and I've had this happen a lot with the blues, looks really good and how I want it to be in the Pantone color, but when it converts to CMYK, it becomes super, super dull, doesn't look anything like it. How can I match that better? So what I'll do is I'll go through the book and I'll see other blues that are CMYK that match it better. And then I'll give it that color so that when we go to print, that's as close as I can get it. It's kind of hard to explain unless you're going through it, but that's typically what designers do when they're trying to match it up and they know they have to convert it from spot to process. We're going to go through here and talk about how to convert, how to create a Pantone spot color too, how to find those. So basically what you're going to do, and this, I believe this is an Illustrator here, find the Pantone color, copy the color code, and find it in Illustrator. So what you can do is you can go through that book, if you have one of those swatch books, look for that color, copy the color code in it, that has a little code under it. You can actually go through this process and type in that code if you have a book on you that you know the color that you want. So you go to Window and then to Swatches, and then to Swatches you've got to open Swatch Library, and then you go to Color Books Pantone Solid Coded. That's if you're using a coded paper. You'll want to choose that, and if you're using an uncoated, that's where that's located. It's a little different with coded and uncoated because the way that the ink is laid on the page, when you're dealing with coded, typically some of the colors are more bright and bold versus the uncoated, because the uncoated is obviously, it doesn't have that shininess to it, and it also sucks, the uncoated sucks it in, the ink more so. So you could have a little bit of a duller tone to it. So it's important to understand what paper that you're printing on so that you know the colors that are going to come out. Might be a blue encoded, might be completely different looking than the same Pantone blue on uncoated. Any questions about that? I know sometimes having those Pantone swatch books are so nice to just look at and just, get the idea of what it's all about. And sometimes you won't, they're expensive. Those, you can buy them, those books, especially if you're a freelancer, you'd probably want to get a couple of those. But they are expensive. But typically, if you're working for someone, they'll have those maybe numerous different types of Pantone swatch books for you to kind of utilize. Don't switch yet. What's that mean? I don't know what you're talking about, Miranda. Do you have a question? Okay. Oh, okay. No problem. All right, so we're going to take a look at your assignment 2 here in a second. You could do a screenshot of it too. I don't know if you're on a Mac, do a Command-Shift-4. You can do a little screenshot of what you see on here. Sometimes that's easier than writing it all down. All right. You good to go, Miranda? Okay. All right, so your assignment 2 is a logo color theme. You guys will be creating, this is important to understand. Some of you guys get confused about this. Create 2 color schemes for the Aqua Excursions logo that's provided to you. So you're not changing the logo in any way. It should look exactly how it is. The only thing that you're going to be changing is the color scheme. So you're going to have one utilizing 2 colors. So you're going to have one logo with just 2 colors. And then you're going to have another logo, the same one, with 3 colors, utilizing 3 colors. So you're going to download the black and white Aqua Excursion logo. You're going to utilize the Pantone colors to create 2 different color combinations that are effective solutions for the kayak industry. So you might want to do some research before you get started. Look up kayak companies and brands, see what's appropriate. Create 2 sets of boxes and fill each box with your chosen colors. I'll show you how to do that. Duplicate your swatches and convert the colors to CMYK. And I'll show you how to do that. Apply the CMYK values of each theme to the black and white logo you downloaded. Okay, so I'll go through all of that in a second here. Part 2 is the written rationale behind that. So you're going to write a 150 to 200 word rationale in Word that explains the reasons why you chose the colors in each theme. So let's go into Canvas here. Before we get any further, I just want to show you what the actual assignment is. Don't forget to kind of read through this initial week 2 overview with your learning objectives. This is your discussion. We'll talk about that in a second here. Okay, so if you go into your week 2, create campaign component logo and color palette. This is a good example of what you need to have. So this is 2 logos with 2 different color schemes. And the top 3 squares are the Pantone colors, and the bottom 3 squares are the process converted into process. Same thing with the 2 color logo. The top 2 are the Pantone, the top bottom are the process conversion. So what you're going to do is you're going to read through this. Here's a great link here to kind of give you some color selection, some ideas of how to choose color for brands. You can even do your own research here. Let me look up kayak brands. Let's go to image. Kayak logo brands. You know, you might do like just a quick image search here and look at what's out there. Kayak logo brands. There's a lot of black and there's some blue, orange, a lot of orange. Okay, so, you know, it's not like you have to go with a certain color scheme, but know kind of what's out there, what works, what doesn't work. There's definitely colors that don't work too. So make sure you're kind of aligning it color-wise in the way that, you know, makes sense. Oops. All right. There's a little video here that talks about color systems at work that you need to definitely look at. And then your prompt for this assignment is basically what I just showed you. Just this is a little bit more detailed, so make sure you're following through this. So you're going to download the white Aqua Excursion logo. So you're going to click on that. It's an AI file. You're going to open that up. You're going to create a new 8.5 by 11 Adobe Illustrator document. And then you're going to utilize the Pantone colors to create 2 different color combinations that are effective solutions for the kayak industry. And then you're going to create 2 sets of boxes. Fill each box with your chosen color. Duplicate your swatches and convert the colors to CMYK. Note if the color change is pronounced or minimal. If it is pronounced, consider choosing a different color. Open the provided logo in Illustrator. Copy and paste the black and white logo into your file. Apply the CMYK values of each theme to the black and white logo you downloaded. And then you can save your file as such. So you're going to be doing this in Illustrator. Let me open up the AI file that I just downloaded here. Pull this over here in a sec. Let me just share my screen because I think if I share my screen, you guys can see my menus here. Hold on one second. My desktop, there we go. All right. So this is what you'll see when you download the logo. You don't want to stretch this logo in any way. I've noticed a lot of students that will take it from Illustrator, from this actual document. So go File, New, because we want to create a new document. But they'll stretch it and they'll distort it. And I'll show you kind of how not to do that. 8.5 by 11. If you don't have that showing up here, just type in 8.5 by 11 inches. You're just creating a new document right now. And there we go. Pull this up here. I'm going to go back up here to my tab. Well, you can just do a select all, so Command A, or just slide your cursor over. Go ahead and do a Command C, which is copy. And then a paste. Go back to your 8.5 by 11 and do a Command V. But this is what I see a lot of students doing. They end up like placing it in here and then they end up trying to get it bigger and they don't hold the shift key down. So they end up distorting it. Don't do that. You don't want to distort it. Hold the shift key down, pull that bounding box out, hold with the shift key down. You don't want to let go of the shift key. The last thing that you want to let go of is your shift key so that you're doing proportionate scale. There's another way to do that. If you don't like the way that works, if you don't like the shift key, you can select all and go over to your toolbox and go to the scale tool. If you hit S on your keyboard, it goes right to the scale tool and just double click on that. It's right below your eraser tool. And you want to choose uniform and you can make it bigger or smaller, but you want to scale everything proportionately. So let's do 130. See how it kind of, and if you double click on it, it's going to take it up another 130 unless you change it. So that's another way to do it more proportionally. If you hold down the Alt key with your image selected, your logo selected, hold down the Alt key and drag down, you have a duplicate of that logo. So you're kind of making a copy. And then what you want to do is take your rectangle tool, which is over here. If you hit M on your keyboard, we'll go right for it. Hold down the Shift key and create little rectangles. Once you do one, you can just do an Alt drag, and you can kind of pull out a copy. You can align these up here in your alignment, or if you go up to Window, Align, you can align these so that they're, there we go, even horizontally there, distribute center. And then all I have to do is select all these and hit Alt and then pull it down so that I have another set here. Same thing here, I'll just grab these 4 and do an Alt drag. Okay, so that I have, this will be my 3 color and this will be my 2 color. Okay, any questions about that? Oh, we go too fast here. Looks like everybody's good to go. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna go up to, where's my color? You're gonna go to your swatch panel. So if you don't have your swatch panel, go up to Window, choose Swatches. Your swatch panel should look like this. In the upper right-hand corner, just click on that little lines icon and go all the way down to Open Swatch Library. And then you want to go to your color books. This is what we were just talking about before. Your Pantone, CMYK. What you want to do is you want to, I would say, choose the coated, Pantone solid coated. And it's going to bring up this a palette with all of the solid coated. If you hold your cursor over each one of these, they have individual numbers for each one. So if you had a Pantone swatch book in your hand, you could actually see what these colors look like on paper, on the coated paper. If you knew the number, say, like I used to design for First Energy. They were a big energy company in Ohio, and they always went by, let's see, this color, I think, Blue 072 coated. That was their, and they did uncoated too, but 072 was their color that they used on everything, their logo. So any type of program that I was in, I always had to go and find 072 coated paper. When you send it to the printer, you want to specify to them, and what you'll do is you'll just kind of specify it on your file itself, that you're using a spot color of 072, or you'll just speak to the printer and tell them this is a Pantone. And sometimes you'll even put the spot color chip on there to specify it for the printer. Okay, now if this is grouped, you know, if you can't get into these individual elements, you want to go to Object on Group. It shouldn't be grouped unless you group it. So now you can actually use your selection tool and select each of these elements in here. I wouldn't do different colors for each letter. I would keep that, whatever color you use, I would keep that solid the same. And I'm going to go ahead and do a darker red for this, and maybe like a nice darker blue, and then maybe a gray for this one. There we go. So once you get the colors, you can drag the colors over here. Actually, they already kind of go in here. Sorry, I forgot that. So they're actually all in here. Let me get rid of this one here. Trash it. You can have your own folder. You can create your own folder, create new color group, and we'll name this Aqua Excursions. And I just clicked on the little file folder icon there, click OK. And it creates a little folder down here that you can actually drag and pull these colors into. Let me get rid of this light one because we don't want that one. So this is my folder with my colors. So I can go ahead and make these the spot colors that I chose. Okay, so that's the first one. And now I'm going to convert these colors to CMYK. So right now these are spot colors. I'm going to go ahead and copy these. So I'm going to do a Shift Select. Let's see if I can do a Command C and a Command V. Oh, I can't do that. I'm going to create a new folder so that we're not getting confused here. Aqua Excursions CMYK. I'll name this CMYK, and this one I'll name, oops, Spot. And then what I'll do, let's see if I can copy these. I'll drag them down. No, I can't copy them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this over here. I'm just going to drag and drop. I thought I could copy them, but I can't. So I'm going to just drag and drop. Now, take note that these have a little dot on the corner. You see the little dot in the bottom right-hand corner. That, and if you highlight over it, you can see the Pantone colors are showing the number, the code. But those dots at the very bottom corner is telling you that these are spot colors, and we want to convert those. So let me make these spot colors first. So how do you convert them? If you double click on the actual color that you want to convert from spot to CMYK, spot to process, it will open up this swatch options. And what you're going to do is you're going to change the color type to process. And we're going to say, we're going to name this process. And click OK. Now watch what happens to that little dot. It goes away. Actually, it changes this one too. Why did that change that? Huh. All right, that shouldn't have changed that. 3015. Let me try to find it again. This might be a little difficult. I'm not sure why that changed that, but let me see here real quick. Let's see. To my library preview. Yeah, it's going to change all of those. Okay. I'm not sure. Let me try to figure out a way around that. But that's how you would convert it from spot to process. I think it's because you should be able to have both in there at the same time. Let's see, click here. 187. Let me click and drag this next to it here. Here we go. Okay, I think it's because it's in that folder. It might be acting like weird because it's in that folder 3015 because it's saving it now, and now I can go back and change that to my process color. So you might just want to make one folder, maybe once you convert, because these kind of all seem like they're copied together. Let me trash this. There we go. So this one is the spot because it has a little spot in the bottom right-hand corner. So now I have to go back and find these again here. So this is 431. So if that happens to you, you kind of know what to do. 431, just drag and drop it back into the swatch palette there. Sorry guys, 3015. We'll find it in here. If I can't find it, I'll just pick something. There it is, right there. Okay. So those ones have the little dot, that's the CMYK. Just make sure that these, I'm sorry, that's the spot. Just make sure that these are the spot color and that these are the process color. Okay. All right, let's try a different color option here. Let's try like an orange. Maybe do like a darker gray. Okay. So again, this kind of puts it up here. And then I'll just do another folder and I'll name this Aqua Excursions Process to Color. And drag that back out of there. There we go. I might actually have to make this that same color here. Okay, and then I'll convert this. So I go to new swatch, process color, okay. That gives me a new swatch I can pull down in here. Perfect. Double click on that. Actually, what I'm gonna do, that's selecting my spot color. I'm gonna go up here and just say new swatch. Change this to process, click OK, and just drag that down over here so I can see that that's the process one. Process, process, spot, spot. Okay, any questions about that? When you submit your file, submit the AI file too so I can go in here and actually look at your colors. Because if you only export the PDF, I won't be able to go in here and look at it. So make sure that you're providing the AI file, which is the Illustrator native file, this one. And let's name it 114, assignment 2. Desktop AI file, that's the one that you'll save and submit. And then you'll also export this out as a PDF. You can zip them together, yeah. Yep. So you go File, Export, Export As. Oh, cancel that. I'm thinking I'm in like InDesign here. Go File, Save As, and then Adobe PDF. And this could be a smaller file size. Bear with me here. So here's the PDF. Here's the AI file. You can zip them together. Just select, hold down the Control key if you're on a Mac, and compress 2 items. And you can just name this your last name. You don't have to name it this file name because it's just the zipped folder. So when I unzip it, I'll see that you named these properly because they'll unzip and I'll see them as separate files. Any questions? It's pretty easy, right? Hopefully. Pretty straightforward, yeah. Okay, just make sure you're not distorting the logo and you're converting your spot to process correctly. And then also don't forget you have a written rationale part of this. So you're gonna just explain why you chose the colors that you did in your color scheme. You know, you might wanna talk in detail about maybe what you researched, and then also maybe about the colors that you chose, what their meanings are and how they relate to that brand, how you believe they relate to the brand. And I think that will be very easy once you start looking into these types of brands. It'll come easy to you guys, hopefully. as far as that part. All right. I'm going to give you guys a 5-minute break before we go into your assessment 2 demo. If you guys don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and take a break here, and then we'll come right back at it. Sound good? Let me go grab some water. All right. Sounds good. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes, okay? And then we'll go forward. Okay, can you guys hear me? All right, great. Awesome. So we're going to get back. No questions about assignment 2. We're going to go forward to assessment 2. Why isn't mine? There we go. Okay, so you guys are going to be working on a poster, which you're going to, once you're done with your assignment 2, you're going to be placing the chosen logo color scheme that you think would work best for the poster you're going to use for this exact project here. So you're going to create an 11 by 17 document using InDesign only. So we're going to be in InDesign for this assessment with a 0.125 inch bleed, so 1/8 bleed, using the strongest, most viable color theme from your logo assignment this week. Create a poster that will promote the Aqua Excursion Sunset Paddle Adventure. You must incorporate the following: the final color Aqua Excursions logo. Choose your strongest color combination and create a file in Illustrator of this logo alone, cropped tightly, and it should be the CMYK variation. Up to 2 images from the zip file Sunset Paddle Images view in a new window. You're going to have the headline Sunset Paddle Adventure. You're going to have the body copy, and then call to action. Let me go into Canvas here so you can actually see the exact word for word instructions. I think this is a pretty fun project. So you're going to go through the learning objectives. You're going to go through the background of the project so you kind of have a good idea of what you're doing. You can actually click on the resource here, which is a video that will illustrate how to correctly resize images. You will be resizing for this particular project. So use the strongest, most viable color scheme logo. Here we go. It's kind of basically what I've been saying. Here's the sunset paddle images that you're going to download. So we're going to click on that. It's going to be a zipped folder. Excuse me. In this folder, you want to make sure that you're looking through each of these images here. Yes, so you're going to put the logo probably on an image of your choice here. So here's the folder that I just downloaded. Here's the images. Let me get them bigger. This one is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. Now, because this is 11 by 17, you want to make sure that you're using the appropriate orientation. So you wouldn't use these because they're more landscape for if you're doing a focal point of the whole layout. You can use the horizontal ones if you use them smaller within your layout. But typically you want to kind of focus on the vertical ones for if you're doing a focal point image. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to, let me open up this again. You're going to make sure that they're the right size. They're the right color space. So 11 by 17 with the 1/8 bleed, color space CMYK. All images converted to CMYK. All images placed at correct resolution for print. So 300 pixels per inch at 100%. And I'll show you how to look for that. All spot colors converted to CMYK. I'll show you how to look for that. Live area applied properly. No important text or elements too close to the trim. Bleeds correctly implemented. I'll show you how to do that. Document packaged for print. You're going to name your file as such, and then you're going to export your InDesign file to a press quality PDF. You're going to include crop marks and bleeds. Note that this is a different setting than the print quality. You're going to package the InDesign file and zip the package folder that InDesign creates. Note that there are no errors in this report. If there are, fix them or repackage for submission. You're going to submit the press quality PDF with the file name as such, and then submit the zipped package folder with the name. You can actually put your press quality PDF into this folder that you're going to zip all into one. Okay. So let me go ahead and show you how to get started here. So once you decide, okay, oh, you know what I need to do? I need to open up, while we're talking about this, let me open up Photoshop while I'm talking to you guys. So you're gonna go back and you're gonna say, okay, you know, I think this would work, this one would work best with the pictures that I have, and this is the strongest color scheme. You know, so you're gonna pick one that you think would best represent the brand and also go along with the photos that were provided. You wanna make sure you have enough contrast. There's ways that you can make it stand out a little different, you know, if you need to, but you're gonna choose one. I'm gonna select this one and just do a Command C, like a copy. You can do a group if you think you're worried about it not all copying over. And just go File, New. Now I'm kind of opening up Photoshop, so I'm a little slow here. Okay, I'm gonna do, let's see, let's do a 4x2. 4x2, we'll see what that looks like here. 4 inches by 2 inches. And then a Command V to paste in there. It looks like it's, yeah, a little, crop it real tight in here. Right there. Then I can go up to edit my, oops, edit my artboard. I can crop this in. If I go to edit artboard, I always stick around this size. This is about 4 inches by, let me see here. Get my rollers out here. This is about almost 3.5 inches by almost 1.5. That's a good size. Once you get that in there, now we have to make sure we convert the colors from spot to CMYK. This looks good for converted. I don't see any spot color. No dots there, it looks good. I'm gonna go File, Save As. And I'm gonna do DES114, and I'm gonna do _final logo, desktop AI file, just to have that, throw that in your folder for assessment 2. And then just make sure that you go up to File, Document Color Mode, CMYK. Do a File Save, because it was RGB before. And then you're going to do a file export. And you're going to save this as a TIFF file. And so you're going to do this. I'm going to do it again. So you're going to go File, Save As. I'm sorry, File, Export, Export As. And go down where it says TIFF. TIFF files are great, you know, great high-res files that are good for printing. Go Export. And when it comes to this option, make sure CMYK is selected. High resolution, 300 pixels per inch. That looks good. Everything looks good. Click OK. Okay. All right. Now you're going to go to Photoshop. Stop sharing. I'm going to go to my desktop so you can see what I'm doing here. So we got the logo ready to go. So now you're going to choose, you're going to go File, New in Photoshop, and we're going to create a new document, so 11 by 17. And make sure this says inches. by 17, make sure this says 300 pixels per inch. So 11 by 17, width and height, inches, 300 pixels per inch. You can keep it at RGB color space for now. Everything else looks good. Create. So this is your poster. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? We're doing this in InDesign. Why am I doing this in Photoshop? This is why I was screwed up. Sorry. Ignore what I just said. What you're going to do is you're going to go in Photoshop. You're going to go File, Open. I'm sorry, you guys. I got a little ahead of myself. You're just going to open up the image that you're going to use, or the images that you're going to use for this particular project. So let me open up the images here. You're going to go into Photoshop. You're going to open up the images that you're going to use. So say this is the image I'm going to use. This is the original kayak sunset 6.jpg. You're going to go up to image. You're going to go to mode. You're going to make sure that it says CMYK. If it doesn't, choose that. If it might say RGB, this one's good. Go to image size. Make sure this says 300 pixels per inch. If it doesn't, you need to set this to 300. You might have to choose the resample when you do. Just kind of make sure that these inches are not too big when you do that. Everything looks good, so I don't really need to change this. The only thing I need to do is go File, Save As, and save it as a TIFF instead of a JPEG. So change the format from a zip to a TIFF. This is the only image that I'm actually going to use, so I'm just going to save that out. If you're using more than one, you'll need to open them up individually. Then open up InDesign. Here's my finished set here. Well, one of mine. You're going to go File, New. And you're going to go 11 by 17. Maybe, if it's going to let me. I did a lot of switching around here. It's like freaking out on me now. Turn off facing pages. You just want regular, just a regular page. One page is good. The only thing that you need to change next is your bleed. So 0.125, and then click on this little link here so it changes them all. You'll see the little red bleed mark up here. Click OK. This bleed, so let me zoom in here. So this is your bleed, the red area here. This is your 1/8 bleed. The trim edge is where the white meets the gray, so that's where it will be trimmed. And then this purple line is your margin guides. These won't print. These are just for you to make sure you have enough margin space so that the copy's not getting too close to the trim edge. And then your bleed is so that your image or anything that kind of gets cut, there's no weird white gap in between. If you go right to the trim edge with your photo, the press might shift and you might have a weird gap here. So that's why you want to make sure if anything is supposed to bleed off, to pull it out to the bleed area. Okay, now if you're doing a focal point image like me, take your rectangle frame tool, go out from the very beginning of your bleed, drag down so that you're matching it all the way up to that bleed, so that whole rectangle should match that red square. Go to your selection tool, do a Command D, which is a file place. That's the shortcut key. If you want to go file place, that's the longer way to go. Go ahead and find that image that you converted and everything else looks good. Place that in there. Go up to view and just make sure your display is on high quality display. If not, you might have some pixelation showing. Another way to test you know, how big your image is placed in, if you double click on the image itself and go up here, see where the X and Y coordinates, this is the scale X percentage and the scale Y, it's all set at 100. Now, if this was over 120%, then it's too much. If it's under 80%, it's too little. It's 100% looks good. This is another way to figure out if maybe your picture is distorted. So let me show you real quick. I'm going to type in 60 and I'm going to leave this at 100. Look how it's distorted here. So if you have any image distortion, check this number up here. These two should be exactly the same if you want it to be proportionate. Now when I double click on that, it's showing me a red box, a bounding box. That's just saying, hey, we have more image over here. You can actually move this to the left and to the right. It's not all showing in that blue bounding box. And all you have to do is click off of it if you just want to click right off of the actual image itself. Any questions about that? So far so good. All right, so I would go back to my prompt here and just make sure I have all the things that I need. CMYK looks good. We'll do that. All images converted to CMYK. So if you use any other images in there, make sure that you're converting them to CMYK. Everything is the correct pixels per inch. Then the next thing is we want to make sure that we are using the headline, the correct headline. So here's the headline. I just copy it out of here. So Sunset Paddle Venture, do Command C. Go back to your InDesign file, take your type tool. You're all out. You know, I would go from your margin to margin so that you know it's centered and do a Command V. And then we can always center this, you know, and make it bigger. We're gonna change this up here anyway, but I'm gonna throw this up here for a sec. Go back and get the rest of the copy. So here's the body copy. Command C. Go back to your InDesign file. Paste in there. Go back. Call to action. Just visit. This needs to be copied over. Okay, so you can see, you know, this could be definitely very hard to read if left as is. So you don't want to leave this as is, but typically the order in which you put this in, and it's not always the case. You want the call out to be here, which is the visit information. You don't necessarily always, sometimes you can have it up top. Typically the body copy is somewhere around here, headlines maybe closer to the body copy here, and then maybe the logo's here. You can even have the logo down here, depending on like your picture that you choose. I'm gonna go ahead and take another rectangle frame tool here, and I'm gonna draw out my box. And I think this might bring that white box in here. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, it did, okay. All right, so there's a second step to your logo process. So when you're done saving this as an AI file in your TIFF file, you're going to go into Photoshop. You're going to open up that TIFF file of your logo. Actually, you know what? You don't even have to save it as a TIFF. You go File, Open, and open up your AI file. Open your AI file up. Don't open up the TIFF file. You don't even have to save this as a TIFF file in Illustrator. Just save it as an AI file. Go into Photoshop, open up your AI file in Photoshop before you place it in there. Make sure it's CMYK, looks good. Go ahead and just save as, and now you can save it as a TIFF file. The reason being is because you don't want this white background to come in. I'm going to say replace. And how you choose that not to come through is you want this save transparency clicked, like checked. So make sure that's checked, click OK. That's saved as a TIFF file, and you're good to go. If you do it the other way, that white box is going to come in. File place. There you go. It's in there. Sorry for the confusion there, but forgot that step. If you want to try to make it bigger, you can double click on it and you can type in a larger size here. If you want it even bigger, you're going to have to go to the original file and get it a little bit bigger. But this is actually a good size. This would work. It doesn't have to be huge. You know, I wouldn't go any smaller than this. Okay. All right, the next thing is the typeface that you choose. You know, you want it to go with the logo as much as you can. I mean, you can choose a sans serif typeface too, if you think it works for that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a serif typeface. It doesn't have to be a sans serif, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this a little bit different in terms of the hierarchy, just so it stands out a little bit more. So I'm going to make the top wording here a little bit bigger. Oops, what are you doing? That's a little bit too much. Let's do 100. This is your headline. You want to see the image and then the headline first. You know, just kind of play around with it. See what works for your, you know, the typeface that you picked out. Just showing you some things that you can do. Maybe this is all caps. Put some kerning in there. Track it out a little bit. And then you might want to pick colors from your logo. Take the eyedropper tool. Oops, what am I doing? You can drag this into your, double click on your swatches to add it to your swatches. I'm just adding it to my swatches here. Taking the eyedropper tool and just selecting each color. If you already know your colors and you want to plug them in here, that's fine too. Okay, so now I can actually utilize the colors a little bit better. And maybe adjust the leading a little bit, which is the space in between the lines of text. Pull it in just a little bit. You can add elements too, like if you thought this needed like a line, like a thin line or something to separate out your pieces. This is like a, let's do a 0.5 and see how that looks. Let me go to print mode here. It's a little hard to see. Do an alt drag. And then you can align these. You don't have to do this. This is just, again, just if you want to play around with it. Where's my alignment? Align. Make sure everything's centered. See how it kind of separates it out a little bit. And these are a little hard to see. It's okay for it to be not as dark, but it looks pretty good. You can also put a drop shadow behind here if you want a little bit more contrast. You go up to Object, and then you go to Effects and Drop Shadow. And it might look good, it might not look good. You might need to dial some things back here. Make it a little bit smaller distance-wise. Size a little bit different distance-wise, and then the opacity, maybe dial that down a little bit. When you use drop shadows, you don't want it to be super noticeable. You just want a little drop shadow in there. Okay, so let's change this body copy. I would say between 14 and 16. Don't go too big. And then it also depends on the type that you choose. Do center. This is a little hard to read, I think. Let's do book. Let's go a little bigger. Okay. Then I'm going to pull this in a little bit so it's not as, you don't want your line lengths to be really long. What I mean by that is you don't want more than 72 characters, so letters, on a line, just because it makes it harder to read. Now I can pull this up closer to, it kind of, proximity wise, it's kind of nice to have this closer to the headline so that it reads together. So you have a bigger visual pause in between the logo and then the headline and the body copy. And then you have a bigger space between your body copy, your image, and then the call out information. Let me save this here. Assessment 2. This is your InDesign file here. The bottom, you can implement a color bar to make it easier to read, or let's see what it looks like in white. Using the same exact typeface, but maybe a different font, different style from that font family. So you might want to choose a typeface that has a large font family so that you have more choices, but it's the same font. I'll make this white. All caps, maybe a little smaller. So this could work. It's getting a little light on this side, but this could work. Maybe throw a drop shadow on it. If you wanted to try something else, let's see here. Why is this showing like this now? Why is this all pixelated? There we go. Okay. Just a little trick, and you could do this for your logo too. You could take your rectangle tool and do like a color bar of your choice. And choose the same blue as the logo. And then I'm just going to go up here on my presets, see where it says 100%. That's your transparency. I can pull that down a little bit. Just make sure that copy goes above. So go object, arrange, bring to front. So it gives a little bit more contrast. Now it doesn't have to be all the way to the bottom. You can pull this up so it's just a narrow color bar. But see how it kind of all visually comes together. You see the logo, you go right to the image first probably, and then the headline, and then it gets you into the body copy, and then this is the send off information. Just make sure you have enough contrast. Read through this copy, sign up for your unique experience and join us as you paddle off into the sunset, enjoying relaxing scenery. Advanced reservations required. You might want to make that bold, or maybe a little different. That doesn't even look any different, so let me change that. family adventure packages available. You might want to put a period at the end of that. I don't think it has that. And maybe do like a little italics right there. I would probably do a shift return here. Try to like, let me go back. See how I have that hyphen now? Let's try to fix that hyphen. There we go. If you have your go up to view, go up to your guides, grids and guides, and make sure you have your lock column guides, snap guides, and smart guides all checked. If you have these three checked, if you're moving anything around, it's gonna intuitively tell you, okay, this is the center, and you can drop and drag, so you don't have to worry about aligning it all the time. It's just very nice to have, so you're not sitting there aligning everything all the time. All right, let me set my, you can see my bleeds here, everything else. Any questions about that? Now, you can move this around. Now, you don't have to have the logo here. You can have all this up here. Oops. You know, kind of play around with it, see what works. Have the logo down here. The logo doesn't work down there. You might need to, again, do a color bar or do something to add more contrast to it. Just giving you some suggestions here. Oh, I want to show you something else too that you guys can try. Let me bring this up. It's kind of cool. All right, let me bring this up all the way up to 100. Well, this isn't even white. Is this white? This looks blue. Huh, weird. Must be seeing things. All right, so you could also do something like this. If you didn't want the solid or, you know, screen to show the block here, see how it has, like, you can see the actual block. Let me go to print preview here. You can actually see the line here. If you didn't want that, you can go over here, do exactly what I just did with the box, but choose the, in your toolbox, here, let me go back to regular. Choose the gradient feather tool. And you're gonna click, I'm gonna click down and then up because I want that to disappear on top. And as long as I'm not going over that edge, it's gonna give me a nice transition from white, whatever percentage I had, to 0. I can pull this up to show you a little bit better. Take my blend tool. And the longer that I pull it up, like the longer line that I have, the more gradient will be showing here. And I can always pull this up too. Give me a little bit of allowance to get this to be a little darker. It's a little tricky. So that's another trick to get more contrast without having a big block there if you didn't want a big block. If you wanted to add the other pictures in here, you definitely can. I didn't resize them, like I didn't check on them yet, but you could definitely do little boxes here. I would do all of them the same size or similar size, similar orientation. So let's do 3. Make them a little smaller here. Oops. Proportionately smaller. I'm just scaling these down a little bit. And then you can go ahead and now you would convert these to TIFF files in Photoshop before placing them in here. I'm just showing you some ideas that you can actually place these in here once you do get them to size. That's like another way that you can do it if you wanted to show all of these in here. I'm just going to object fitting fill frame proportionately. And then you can, you can add borders or drop shadows to all of these. You can pop a little bit. My alignment. And play around with where they're at. I would definitely move this down if you were to do something similar to this. Move this down just slightly so you have a little bit of a visual pause here. Maybe move this up. Move these up a little bit. So you just have a nice visual pause there. Now it's a little top heavy, you don't have much going on down here. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of like that might be better if you switch these around. It just looks very heavy on top. So maybe this would be better here. And then I can just take this whole like white box out of there now because the logo's not there anymore. Oh, where's my logo? Missing my logo. This is getting a little big, but pull this up a little bit. Make sure it's balanced. There you go. So it's cohesive. The colors are cohesive with the brand. Why isn't this picking up my... There we go. The typography is cohesive, kind of goes with it. The colors cohesive enough. Everything else is working. I have emphasis. Oh, there's my logo. Emphasis right there. Everything looks good. So I think this would work, but it's going to really depend on the picture that you choose, how everything kind of lays on top. So you really want to make sure your logo is readable on top of that, as well as your body copy. All right, so then we're going to do it once you're done, just save it as your InDesign file. And then we're going to do before we package it, we're going to do a file Adobe PDF presets. You're going to do a press quality PDF. Let's save to my desktop. Okay, so this is where you have to pay attention. So you want all pages, looks good. Go to marks and bleeds, and you want to do crop marks and bleed marks, and you want to use document bleed settings. Crop marks, bleed marks, checked. You don't have to worry about the rest of these. And then where it says bleed and slug, use document bleed settings, export. Okay, now once you're done with that, we're gonna go File, Package. You're gonna package your InDesign file. Do you guys know what the package does when you package your file? Why we do that? Amanda, you're the only one in here. I'm putting you on the spot. So when you package your InDesign file up, it takes all the images, fonts, and etc. and lets the printer know what to use. Exactly. So I am able to open up your project on my computer, and I'll have the typefaces that you use, the images that you use, they'll all be linked up and synced up. If you didn't package your file and you just sent me your InDesign file, I will have missing images and missing typefaces that you have in your folder. Good. All right, so I'm going to go to linked images, make sure that these are all, now I have JPEGs in there only because I didn't convert these. These should all be TIFF files, CMYK. Colors and inks shouldn't have any spot colors, just process as shown here. Looks good. I'm going to hit package. You can just skip the printing instructions. Say continue. The one thing I want you guys to be aware of is just that all of these are selected. So copy fonts, copy linked graphics, everything's. The only thing you don't have to include is the PDF because we already created a PDF. So hit package. It might take a while. And this might be a big file, just to warn you guys. This might be a big one. Desktop. Show you what I got here. Excuse me. All right. Throw this out. I showed you guys before. Here's the PDF. This is the press quality PDF. And I make sure you open this up and make sure everything looks good. This is what I just did. Open it up, make sure you can see your trim, your bleed marks, and your crop marks. So you should have a double set here. So it should look similar to that. That looks good. Double click on the folder. This is the packaged folder. And you'll see you'll have an InDesign file, your InDesign native file. You'll have your fonts and your links, all your images that you use. Go ahead and drag and drop this PDF right into that folder. So you have one folder. And do a control click or file compress. So this is the zip file that you'll submit. This might be a big one because there's big, 35 megabytes. I have like 4 images in there that are high res. So it might be larger if you're, make sure you're uploading sooner than later so that you can get your file uploaded on there. But this is what you need to include. Just your zip file. Any questions? You also want us to include the final logo in the zip folder. When you package your document up, if your logo is in there, it's going to throw it in there. Oh, you mean the actual final logo? No, you don't have to. No. No, that should be good. Because when I look at your assignment 2, I will see your AI file in there. All right, no other questions? I want to make sure I go over the discussion real quick here before I leave you guys. All right, just make sure you read through the background here. I'm not going to read through all of that. That's for you guys to read. I'm going to go through the prompts. So for the discussion 2, you're going to look at the information provided. Okay. Sounds good, Amanda. Awesome. All right, so you're going to look at this website and think about the poster in terms of color. So you're going to think about your CRAP, Principles of Design. And you might consider also the questions like, what makes these poster designs great? By whose standards are these considered great? And do you agree that they are great? So you're going to click on this, think about the posters in terms of color, and you're going to basically dissect them. So a valid question of relevance to the 4 design principles and their impact or implications for your life or future career can also be included. There's an example down here of sample 1. If you're really kind of stumped, you don't know how to go forward with this, here's an actual student example here. Go ahead and click and download it. And I believe that these are provided in each week so that they're relative to what you guys are working on. So here's the question: what factors should be considered when trying to determine how many colors to include in a design? So that would be a question that you could post. Of course, you wouldn't post this one because this is already in your example. And then that's the question, and then they're answering basically that question with a citation. So that could be a good example. So definitely check that out if you're having questions about that. How you get into Packback, once you're in Canvas, which you should try to be in Firefox when you're looking at the browser, either Firefox or Google Chrome. Try not to use Safari. That's not a good browser to use. But once you get into Canvas, click on Packback Questions on your menu or your navigation bar. You probably won't see these grayed out items. These, because I'm a teacher, I'm logged in. You'll see Packback Questions, and that should log you in. And then all you have to do is click Ask a New Question. And then have your question here. You might want to type it up in Word first so you have it all ready to go. And then all of the answer, what you find out is here. The message goes here. It's almost like a thesis paper where you start out with a question and then you try to answer it. And then you cite your source, save and post question. When you want to respond to other people, this unfortunately doesn't group them into week 1, week 2, so it's a little hard to see. But you'll just click on somebody's post, read through it, and then add a response. And go ahead and talk about, kind of respond to their post. It's pretty easy. If you can get logged in here, it's pretty easy on how to post a question and respond. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. Looks like we're getting to the end here of our time. Did you have any other questions or anything that you wanted to ask me before we kind of wrap it up here? No, Amanda, you're the only one in here, so don't forget, I will be in tomorrow, 6 a.m. Mountain Time. If you're Eastern Time, 8 a.m. to 10 o'clock. If you want to kind of check in with me, if you have any questions. Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. All right. I'm glad it was a good lecture. I'm sorry I couldn't make it last week. I feel so bad leaving you guys with the pre-recording, but, I had to do it. Couldn't talk. But I might see you tomorrow. If not, I'll see you on the boards in the discussion. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, have a great day, and thanks for joining me.